What's up guys, so today we're going to be going over an interview Bryan Intihar did with Marvel themselves about Marvel Spider-Man 2. This interview came out June 16th, so we're a little late, but I've just been busy with a bunch of different things. Better late than never though. This shit is long though. I'm gonna warn you now that this shit's long. This interview, Bryan talks about a lot of different things, like some last minute additions like Kraven and how he wasn't originally in the game, Insomniac's thought process as far as where they wanted to take the game's story, them being fans as much as we are, picking and choosing when they want us to see certain things at certain points in the game, and as well as some like kind of behind the scenes thought process of where they wanted to take the game. So that's what we're going to be going over in today's video. Make sure to leave a like and yeah, let's get into this. Before we get into today's video, do you enjoy watching Spider-Man content on YouTube? If so, you found the perfect channel to join. For an affordable price of only $2 a month, you can get exclusive access to priority reply to comments, these cool custom badges I made myself, as well as some Spider-Man emojis. Like, wait, there's more! And lastly, you can get early access to content. If any of that sounds interesting, what are you waiting for? Join today. Thank you for your time. Back to your regularly scheduled content. So the article's title is Everything You Need to Know About Marvel Spider-Man 2 Pre-Orders. The first thing Marvel asks is basically, how does it feel knowing millions of fans want to spend their hard-earned money on your game? And Bryan says it's two feelings, both excited and stressed, because people have been waiting for so long and wondering when it's coming out. Because y'all left us in the dark all cold and alone. But okay, seriously, back to the rest of the response. There's a sense of excitement and relief, and they are confident in the release date. At the same time though, they know there's high expectations and they intend to deliver on those high expectations, so he's nervous but excited nervous. Personally, I can't imagine the pressure Insomniac is feeling, but I think we all have faith in Insomniac when it comes to our favorite Marvel characters. They have yet to disappoint us, so in Insomniac we trust. Good luck, Bryan, and everyone at Insomniac, from every fan out there of the Marvel Spider-Man Insomniac franchise. We are all super hyped and super excited to play this game, and we hope it's as good, if not better, than the original Marvel Spider-Man. Marvel then asked, how does it feel that they finally revealed gameplay to the world? Bryan replies, one thing we talk a lot about is they work on the games in secret. They're working but aren't talking about their work. They can't even talk to their friends, their family about what they're working on, as in like they can't go into details. When him and the team can finally reveal something, it gives them energy and a lot of excitement, and you know, like that's great to hear, and I'm glad they finally gave us something. They've given us a lot since the PlayStation Showcase, honestly. Like, it's been a really good, consistent flow of constant reveals and news bits dropping since the PlayStation Showcase. Of course, you and I, the fans, want to see more, but I would say I'm pretty satisfied for now. Obviously, I can't wait to play the game. I can't wait for like the first story trailer, but everything we have gotten so far has been good. I would say, you know, massive W all around for the marketing so far, at least, and enough to hold me over until October 20th, I would say. He also said to the same question about how he feels showing gameplay finally, that it's like an adrenaline shot. It's like, here it is, go watch it, and like, you know, waiting for the reactions, and they know when Pete's gonna jump out and, you know, change to the black suit, and then when Pete says he can't make it to Harlem in time, which goes to the instant switch to Miles, or even like the first cinematic starts, they think it's Kraven, but it's actually the second character that's Kraven. So he wonders, will the reactions hit the way they expect them to? I think the reactions definitely did hit for me personally. I was speechless at first, like I couldn't believe it. It was like just crazy seeing everything for the first time. After that, Marvel asked, does he remember his first thoughts for the game or any ideas he had, and what was essentially the thought process for the game? Bryan replies, within a way, you're always thinking of different ways to go. Before, he used to work at the office full-time, and when he worked at the office full-time, those times like he would have like a lot of ideas because he lives in Cali, so he had a long drive home on top of like the traffic and stuff like that, and would be thinking, okay, we're working on Spider-Man 1 right now. If we were to do 2 or 3 or whatever, where can they go? Sort of like a fanboy thing, like, okay, like what do I do? Where do I go from here? He then says, obviously the game ended with the scene that paved the way for the second game, referring to the infamous symbiote tank scene with Norman. With that, they overall knew the direction for Spider-Man 2. Then they worked on the DLC with the City That Never Sleeps DLC. After that, it was just what are some big story points they want to incorporate as well, what characters to feature. He then goes on to talk about Miles Morales and his game. He wondered how they can set that up as far as Miles to get bit by a spider in the first Spider-Man game, and then to build off the momentum of Miles Morales was exciting. And overall, the idea was just how to tie everything together. Kudos to Insomniac and Bryan, that like I think they've done a great job weaving the story together so far. So again, shout out to Insomniac, keep it up guys. Marvel says next, that's part of the fun, doing something creative that you genuinely love and enjoy doing. I agree with that. But Bryan replies, he never talked about this, but he thinks in moments like, I would like to see this happen or that happen, and he starts there and goes into themes and arcs for said characters, but ultimately he goes back to being a kid with action figures and set up a scenario very like kind of basic, like, okay, what do I want to see happen? And I feel like that's super interesting, tapping into your inner child for storytelling, but as like a more experienced person and adult and like better cognitive and creative story thinking and like skills and stuff like that. He then says they talked about suits very early on in Spider-Man 1. They talked about featuring the black suit, and the main character artist Gavin Golden was like, well, we can do it. And then Bill Roseman, Eric Moncelli, sorry if I butchered that, and as well Bryan went, well, if we're gonna do the black suit, that has to be a major part of the story, because they don't want to necessarily do something for the sake of doing it, because they want to wrap a story into it, and that's what makes Marvel. Marvel is the story. And I agree, he put that very nicely together, very well thought out. Marvel would not be Marvel without these characters, the way they're written, as well as DC. Marvel continues on to ask, how do they know what they want to give people for pre-orders, or when they want someone to unlock something at, say, 10 hours into the game? Bryan says that in Spider-Man 1 and Miles, they figured, okay, people really like suit options, and there's a lot of opinions on suits. We want to give some early unlock options, but which? And this time they said they made the decision quickly and said, well, we have 2 suits that have capes and we didn't do that in the previous games, so let's go with that. He talks about how the suits' capes look cool, especially with the web wings and gliding in the game. He also talks about the color variants, which I kind of have a theory on that we'll go into in a minute. But there's color variants for most suits, which is new to customization, so you can unlock a suit, then get the variants that they offer for that said unlocked suit. So here's my theory. What if, like, let's say you have the classic suit, right? You go to the suit menu selection, you have the classic suit, you have the symbiote. You click the classic suit and some sort of sub menu pops up. And you have like regular cloth classic suit, then Insomniac's cloth symbiote classic suit, then maybe like an alien looking textured classic suit. Obviously, as we've seen in the pre-order bonuses, we know that there's literal just reskins as far as different colorways go for suits. But what if they have like, you know, like what I explained, my theory or whatever? I think that would be really cool. I think that could be a good way to implement very similar suits but with different designs, or just reskins or whatever. Or another example is if, like, I think this is a better example, if they implement the Spectacular Spider-Man suit and you go to the sub menu of the Spectacular Spider-Man suit and it has the option for all 4 suits, the classic red and blue, the symbiote 1, symbiote 2, symbiote 3 suits. Something like that would be really dope. So, you know, hopefully we have something like that, but you know, we'll see. They then talk about the digital deluxe suits and other stuff. Bryan says they didn't want to just make the suit, they wanted to add on to it, put their own spin on it. They mentioned outside the studio artists, so people outside of Insomniac made some of the suits, which kind of explains why, in my opinion, some of them look super weird. But Bryan likes them, thinks they're cool. Some other fans agree with Bryan, while on the other hand, some people agree with me. It is what it is. I respect Bryan and whoever sides with him opinions, but I disagree. Holy hell, man, this is a long ass interview. We got 5 more questions left though. Stay with me. Marvel mentions the collector's edition and brings up the statue. Bryan just says it's cool, and the collector's edition comes with the digital deluxe edition plus the steelbook featuring the concept art. Nothing new or special there. Marvel then finally brings up Venom and his design, and they say this is the first look at Venom. He feels classic yet distinctive for this universe, and asks how many teeth does Venom have, which I think is a funny but interesting question to ask. Bryan says a lot. Someone did ask specifically how many, but he doesn't really know. But Venom is a good example of how ultimately for their version of the franchise, they want to respect the DNA of the character from its original or iconic adaptations in varying franchises. They want to respect the creators before, but also want to incorporate what the fans love. They did not want to go so out of left field that we can't identify anything other than the character, which I have to say is a great way to look at doing such iconic characters like Venom, like Kraven, Peter, Miles, etc. He then says at the same time they do want to mix things up and, you know, put their own unique take on it, like how in Spider-Man 1, right off the bat, you see the suit and you're like, okay, red, blue, the eyes, that's Spider-Man, but then wait, there's that big white spider, which was different for that color scheme, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's Insomniac Spider-Man now whenever you see it. And he says Venom is a character that they absolutely did not want to screw up. Marvel then mentions the concept art for the game, and Bryan says there's a lot that goes into every detail as far as the concept art goes, and that it hints at some things with the symbiote, Miles, Venom powers, then it's kind of like a tease to a lot of big things to happen in the game as far as the story or the gameplay. I don't think there was any real tease besides the blue and Miles powers, but we already kind of have been aware of that before the concept art. The only other real tease is the Emily May Foundation thing, but we'll see eventually, unless, you know, maybe we missed something. Then Marvel asks about the villains, and he asks specifically about Kraven. Bryan goes on to reply that Kraven actually wasn't in the game originally, which is super interesting, I think. Very early on, he wasn't intended to be in the game. And then they were thinking of the story and thought, you know, like, what's a character that can push Miles, Pete into places out of their comfort zone? And they knew they wanted to incorporate the Lizard in the game and story as well as Venom. So they asked themselves, what's a character that can push everybody and, like, you know, like push the story into a different direction? So they came up with Kraven the Hunter. He continues to say he's a big Kraven fan and he's an interesting character because he's not magic based or has powers. He's just the world's best hunter who's powerful, strong, but he's smart too, so he has brains and brawn. And they want his story to be more psychological than their previous characters, which I find super interesting because, like, I kind of wonder, you know, like, how psychological will they get, and, you know, like, what types of ways will they get Kraven to push Pete and Miles out of their comfort zone. He then refers to the original teaser trailer where he says he wants an equal, or maybe he's talking about the Kraven trailer itself, because he says something similar there too. Holy shit, last one. This is gonna be a long ass video. I just know it. And to think, I was gonna make this and the game info video from yesterday or the day before, depending on when this video goes up. I was gonna combine this video and the last video I uploaded into one video. Marvel finally talks about the switching characters mechanic and different content for each character, and that it's really cool and makes a lot of us excited to see what they have in store, which I definitely agree on that. That is very intriguing to have different content for Peters and Miles separately and respectively. Bryan says besides it being a sequel, it's called Spider-Man 2 because there's two Spider-Man, and it's important to experience both Peter and Miles because not only do they have one big story, as well they have their own personal stories and journeys separate from each other. And he says the story will determine who we are playing as, so, you know, sometimes we'll be forced to play Peter, or sometimes we'll be forced to play just Miles, or sometimes, you know, like, we can play them both and they will be together, which is interesting. And, you know, they kind of showcase that in the PlayStation Showcase reveal essentially. He finally says, but when you're exploring the city, you will be able to switch freely and instantly because of the power of the PS5. You can be playing as Peter in Queens and all of a sudden say, you know what, I want to be Miles, and press one button and he's around the corner, then you're swinging as Miles instantly. He mentions again the specific content designed separately for Miles and Peter respectively, but they also have content you can do as either or. It doesn't matter, you can play as Miles or Peter for certain content. Jeez, that was a lot of information. The big takeaways from this are Kraven wasn't originally in the game, which I think he's likely not Venom, with that being said, since Kraven was added into the game later on. So, you know, I personally think that debunks Kraven being Venom, which good, because that theory was like kind of meh. I don't know. I'm half on the fence with that one, or I was half on the fence with that one. We also kind of got an answer for why the black suit wasn't in Spider-Man 1. Essentially, they wanted to wait to do a story behind it to include the suit in a game, which, you know, fair enough. There's also suit variants, which hopefully my theory is right, and, you know, we can have multiple versions of similar suits, like the Spectacular Spider-Man suit, have all 4 variants of it, whether it's reskins or color variants or whatever the case may be. And Insomniac is just like us, fans of the Marvel franchise, and are doing their best to create something truly amazing and core to the original DNA, but unique enough to call it their own. So what do you think of this interview with Bryan Intihar and Marvel? Make sure you comment your opinion down below so I can discuss all of that with you in the comment section. Thank you for taking time out of your day to click on this video. If you are new to the channel, I cover Spider-Man related scoops, rumors, leaks, confirmations for the games, movies, TV shows, and I try to upload as much as I can. So if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. If you want more of this type of content, leave a like on the video. Don't forget to check out my latest video on the left if you haven't already. I hope you ever had a good day and that you enjoyed the video. Until next time.